burger was good. Chopped champion is crazy.
Burger definitely slapped.
Had a little bit of time to just like reconvene and stuff like that. But like since the burger, I guess now we can talk more about like the journey. So when you first started, you were in Paris. Well, I ain't gonna say when you first started, but you got the opportunity to cook in Paris, France.
Yeah.
For some time.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a Michelin star restaurant. I'll talk about that briefly. But for you, going from Paris to now, I guess we can go straight from Paris to Chop Champion. What was the journey like for you?
I mean, so it's a lot in between that. So I went to culinary school and then got to do that, and then got to move around like a little bit. So I became a dad pretty young. I wasn't even done with culinary school, so like it kind of limited the amount of certain jobs I could take. But I was still very blessed to be able to take a lot of really dope jobs, working under a lot of really cool chefs. One of the things I did learn is like I worked at a lot of country clubs and hotels and stuff like that. Not to make this a black and white thing, but I definitely felt every bit of being the young black chef in a lot of those kitchens. I always knew I had skills. I always knew I had the knowledge and the ability, but I was never given the opportunities because I was just a young black chef. So one of the things I learned really quickly about coming from suburbs and just different areas to like downtown to the Detroit city was that I was able to be a young black chef that was able to be highlighted if I put my effort into it and I showcased myself. I put myself out there. I was able to receive what I was putting out. So that journey, 2017, leaving Birmingham, Bloomfield, whatever, and coming to the city, it allowed me to pretty much just be myself and showcase myself and highlight myself. So just through years of just taking what I know and taking what I do and working hard and staying focused and locking in, it allowed me to do so many other things. I've always been a super creative mind. I've always, been a super go-getter mentality. I was sports back. I played football and sports my whole life. So just having that dog in me to be like, I'm gonna be the best in any space I'm in. I'm gonna be dope. I'm gonna be fired. It was just that constant like motivation to be great. So, and I still have growth. I still have growth in places that I want to go. But just that turn of being able to be celebrated in the spaces when I know I'm doing dope stuff, being able to actually get the accolades and the celebrated pieces of that, I think was a big part of it. So, that journey, and then all the way up into, so before there was Chop, there was, like we talked about earlier, I was able to be highlighted, on the local news stations, Channel 4, Channel 2, Channel 7, social media, and then I started a pop-up series years in 2018 with a friend of mine, Justice, who's a mixologist, and we basically kind of took the city by storm doing these pop-up events with the Exchange, yeah. So doing these pop-up events, putting on these dinners where it was like I took my culinary, he took his beverage knowledge, and we put them together to create these dope black experiences that you could go to a restaurant and it was, again, not to make it a black and white thing, but you could go to these white-owned restaurants and get that experience. But unfortunately, nobody in the city that looked like us was doing food and beverage on that level. So we wanted to provide that platform and that experience from our viewpoint. Yeah. And so it was a lot of times people get asked is like, by the white restaurateurs, it's like, how do you guys fill a room with black and brown diners, doing the food and the beverage that you're doing, that we can't get that crowd. They won't come and try our stuff. And it was like, well, we're a familiar face. People that we look like people that we want to, give that experience to in that edge. Because let's be completely honest, it's not a lot of black-owned restaurants in the city that do food and beverage at a certain level. Yeah. I say it all the time. Unfortunately, I can take you to 10 different black-owned restaurants in the city, and I can tell you what's on the menu before you even walk in the door.
And that's the craziest thing, which takes you to the next point. Was like you talk about 2017 when I first met you in Red Blue, which was one of the, if not prominent black spots. Now I'm not gonna say there is more, but like you said, like when you go to black-owned restaurants, it's like what makes you different, and a lot of them have the same menu. Yeah. And when we talk about that, which is in the city of Detroit, is the fact that as of 2024, there is a lot more restaurants. still looking for like that not gonna say upper echelon black owned restaurant, but it's just like we're still looking for that black owned spot that's catering to everybody and it's diverse. We had that with a little bit with Petty Cash or maybe table number 2, but like even for us, it's still like that. Like it's just that same fried that fried chicken, greens, whatever, macaroni. People want those things, and it's like like when you introduce a concept like Dom did at Petty Cash, where it's like, look, y'all asking for these things and y'all want these things, but this is not what I want to do. Well, you don't want to pocket yourself.
No, so it's 100% that. It's being able. It's somebody, a chef, a restaurateur, or someone who's going to be willing to jump out the gate and say, listen, this is my concept. We're very unapologetically, this is what we're doing. If you don't know about it or understand it, we want to educate you, but we got to get to the point where we have to not be afraid to not always cater to the demographic.
Yeah,
we have to do what we do and do it very well, and if people don't understand it, then be willing to educate them on it. But we can't keep being, unfortunately, like, a lot of the black-owned restaurants, the owners of those restaurants, they'll go eat at the Babel Grays and the Chartreuses and they love that experience. But then they open their own space and they're like, and then they get afraid to recreate that thing or do that thing. It's like, you can't be afraid to, obviously you have to be somewhat careful, but like I tell people all the time, when I open my first restaurant, I don't want to be another black-owned restaurant.
Yeah.
I want to be a great restaurant that happens to be black-owned.
That
you know what I mean? It has, that diverse. I don't want to just appeal to the demographic. I want to appeal to everybody. I want everybody from all walks of life to be able to come into my space, experience my cuisine, my concept, my food. Which my cuisine is Southern cuisine, but it's like very traditional, very elevated, real Southern cuisine, which is different from soul food. You know what I mean? So, and I just want to educate people. You know what I'm saying? I want people to understand like how rich and how deep the culture of Southern cuisine can be, the agriculture of it all, the techniques of the cooking. Like, there's so many techniques that are considered, and I learned this from going to culinary school and learning these French terminologies to these culinary techniques, and I'm just like, I've been doing this since I was a kid with my grandma in the kitchen.
It is just a different word for it.
You know what I mean? It's the French word on it, it's like it's the same. It's a gravy, bro. Like, what you talking about? Roux and all this. It's a gravy. Y'all been making this, so it's like
we've been doing this. That's the thing to it that we spoke about. But I guess going to like the exchange, and you've had your own pop up. So like I guess for me, asking that question would be the difference of restaurants and pop ups, being able to have your own spin on these things, and also not having to like cater to a demographic and things like that. So like I want to go into the segue, or even talking more about how exchange and your concepts have guided you to broaden your horizons into having more of a clientele list that you have now. Like even before Chop, you've always had like you always had your private experiences, having private chefs, catering or thing like that, or even having an exchange. So take me back to a time when you were doing the exchange, or even now where you're doing your private chef. What's been to you, what was the funnest event when you were doing the exchange, or even doing like a private event now?
I'll say it's kind of hard to pinpoint one of the funnest, because they've all been really a lot of fun, because we basically, instead of being stifled into like, listen, this is like, you work for us, this is what it is. When we created the exchange, we were able to do us the way we wanted to do it, how we wanted to do it, when we wanted to do it. There was nobody telling us like, and because we funded it all. Like,
exactly.
We weren't, and it was dope. And hindsight is 2020. I wish we would have had a better business mindset to be able to really, really monetize the exchange the way it could have been. But nonetheless, you live, you learn. And but I'll say like the funnest, I won't even say particular event, but the funnest part about it was being able to just be unapologetically ourselves and just do what we wanted to do when we wanted to do it, and get the reach, because we knew that. See, the thing about a product is like, when you know you have a dope product, stand 10 toes on it, and people gonna come. It's like I told you about what we're doing right now. It's like, stand 10 toes on this product, because it's a dope product, it's a dope like thing, and just keep building on it. And people attract, especially in Detroit, because Detroit is such an artsy city. if you're doing something dope, people are gonna know about it. People are gonna want to know about it, and people are gonna want to see it. So with the exchange, we were able to do. We did events where we did them like very specific to the cuisine. We did a Cash Money Records event where like everything on the menu was Cash Money Records themed, and it was just stupid and it was fun. But we just cooked a bunch of dope food and it was really fun. The DJ spun like 2 hours of just nothing but Cash Money Records. Like it was just a fun event. So stuff like that, man. Just being able to continue to be creative, not be pigeonholed into this one thing. That's what was the fun about it. And then we ended up ultimately getting a lot of recognition for it. I ended up getting selected to be Forbes 30 Under 30. When the 30 Under 30 Summit came to Detroit that year, 2019, I got selected. And it was all off of like everybody else that was there was selected for their restaurant. We were the only people in that space selected for our pop-up. Yeah. Which that's like a huge thing. It made us know that like what we're doing is really dope. You know what I mean? Martha Stewart Food and Wine Show, we were the only pop-up there. The restaurant showcase out at the Novi Showplace, the only pop-up that was there. So those types of accolades that came with it let us know that like, man, we're doing something really dope. And then so that helped us, people coming to those events and the popularity and the notoriety from that gave us that brand gave us the opportunity to to get these private clients, do these private events. So then we did start getting reached out to by people from everywhere. That's why I say I'm so less worried about always catering to my demographic because I feel like my product speaks to everybody. My branding and everything speaks to everybody. So I can cook for grandma and auntie and them down the way, or I can go out there to Bloomfield or Birmingham or whatever and cook for whomever. And like now I'm cooking for Detroit Lions players. I'm cooking for Tigers GMs and stuff like that. So I feel like I've been very blessed with my hand to be able to continue to be creative, create amazing experiences for everybody, and then just get the reach of the masses and not have to pigeonhole myself to just our demographic. Yeah, and I completely understand that part because we talk about that all the time. As when I was in the Detroit Chef Circle, was like it's a lot of the demographic that want to just do the one thing. But we can go into the next part, which is you went from 2019 to 2020, which was bread and butter, which the next breaking bread. Breaking bread was one of your biggest, if not during the pandemic, where everybody was pretty much told to just sit still, and that ended up taking off. And you were actually featured with a few different chefs from across the country, not just in Detroit. So take you back to a time when you were doing Breaking Bread in Atlanta or in LA. What was it for you that made you talk about specifically Clubhouse that got you to reach, but when you did Breaking Bread, what was it that made you continue to do it, I want to say, or even not continue to do it, but like the connections you made, how did that propel you to get to where you are now? So to back up to what Breaking Bread is. So Breaking Bread was born because, like you said, during the pandemic, we were told to basically sit down and we couldn't cook, we couldn't be at our restaurants, we couldn't do all that stuff. People still wanted to do cool stuff. So the app Clubhouse was created, and for those who don't know what Clubhouse is, it was basically a chat room website, basically. Or app. Yeah. So I would just jump in those different like chef rooms where it was like all about being a chef and talking about that. And so then I was asked one day, like, so who are you? What do you do? Whatever. Told the group what I did, what we were doing here in Detroit, and everybody was like, pop up, like a lot of people never even heard of what a pop up is and all that. So when I told them what we were doing with the exchange and with Afro Sushi and all that, they said, man, that sounds dope. Like we would love to like do some shit like that in our city. Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, how can we make that happen? So connected with a bunch of chefs in Clubhouse from Miami, Houston, Atlanta, LA, New York, even. And I would just basically collaborate with those chefs. We would get on a phone call. Hey, let's put this event together, book an Airbnb in whatever one of their respective cities was. And we would essentially just basically go to their cities and cook their food, or like whatever their theme of their food up with that city, put it on Eventbrite, and we were selling out, 20, 30. We kept it intimate because it was a pandemic still, so 15, 20 seats per dinner, but we would do like 5 dinners 4 or 5 courses. Basically the exact same thing we were doing here with the exchange, but just doing it in different cities. And the amount of the way it was received in those other cities was crazy. Like I never even imagined. We ended up getting liquor sponsorships from people like Uncle Nearest was a big sponsor for us. To like they would sponsor a case of booze, so like the cocktails that we would pair with the food was all like Uncle Nearest branded and all. It was just dope, man. The whole experience was dope.
And I think like when we talked about this earlier was the fact that you sold out 3 straight times.
Yeah.
So for you, that had to be what we talk about. One of the biggest words, word of the day, validation. Validating, but also knowing that you can have this reach, and no matter where you were, whether you're just in the city or not, that it was going to be received, and also knowing that you will have different people of different chefs, not just from Detroit, but wanting to help you out as well. Yeah. And another thing that I talk about in Detroit, it's not like it's a bad thing, but in Detroit we have a lot of dope people and a lot of amazing people, a lot of things, but at the same time, some people like to hold us back in a sense in the same city, because it's almost as if some people feel like, oh, well, I can have the same opportunity, I can't give you this.
I'll tell you, man, my viewpoint on that, bro, is like, and this is not to shit on anybody in Detroit. Detroit, unfortunately, is, when it comes to like these types of things, from a culinary aspect, and from a black culinary aspect, we're a very new city. Versus like when I went to Atlanta, the way that they open their arms, man, for sure, I'm gonna take you to my favorite market, my favorite thing to do, like, and like I'm a blast it on my Instagram or whatever. Like it was that mentality of like, man, let's all eat. Yeah. When we went to St. Louis and worked with people like Chef Nico, when we went to Atlanta with Chef Sam, and we went out to Miami with Chef Courtney, it was like, man, welcome to my city. Let me show you what it is. It was very open arms. I'll be honest, I tried to do a few breaking breads right here. Like we wanted to start it here in Detroit. And it was just that like almost like gatekeeper, like weird like mentality. And it was like, you know what, cool. I'm gonna do my own breaking bread in Detroit by myself, and then I'll take it elsewhere. But like that's one thing I'll say about Detroit. And I don't know if it's because we're just very like new in that space. I would like to not equate it to like motherfuckers is just haters. Yeah. Because that's not the way to go about thinking about things. But man, I will say like Detroit is a city where like
everybody's a hustler, but everybody wants it.
Yeah, especially from like the generational gap. Like you get that 40 plus generation. They're very weird about like allowing the 30 and under generation to kind of get in there. It's a very few people that's in that generation that's like, come on, young brother, let me show you what it is, let me show you what to do. Versus like in these other cities. I mean, I just speak to about like my buddy Chef Courtney alone. Chef Courtney's like 40 something. But man, even when I was in New York filming Chop, Chef Courtney lives in Jersey. Dude drove to New York, picked me up, took me to a cigar bar, celebrated with me. Like just that mentorship, man. And I think we lack that a lot in Detroit. Is that's the word? It's mentorship. Yeah. We lack that a lot in Detroit.
I think that's one of the big, and it's not just that's the second time. Like it's not like I'm bringing it up. But a former guest of mine, her name is Cecilia, she has her own brand called 1216. Okay. And she went to Atlanta to actually like work and do other things. And she was like, it's like very open. Same way you have the same experience, like it's very open arm. I want to do these things with you. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's collab. Yeah. And she had the same experience like in Detroit. It's not the same, but in Atlanta, it's like, hey, look, I'm taking underneath my wing. Or brother, we all gonna do the same thing. We all gonna eat.
It's a common goal, which is to eat. That's it.
And that's one thing I will say about Atlanta is like people wanna. It's a funny thing. Like years ago, my psychology teacher told me, she was like, people go to Detroit to people go from Detroit to Atlanta to have a whole new life and they're doing the same shit. But it's a fact. But it's the D to the A connection is like people don't understand it, but it's like like that's a real thing. But it's just funny that like. There are two of the same instances, whether it's culinary or it's fashion, is that people in Atlanta are still going to like do for you as they would do for them, and that's the biggest thing. So I guess you already pretty much went to the next part, but let's talk about Chop. Going from 2020 to Chop now, and it's opened a lot of doors for you. Let's talk about the gift box. So when you first got the Chop, obviously it's a long process, and you shoot for roughly almost 2 hours, or the case may be. The first thing was the gift box, and you had 3 signature dishes that you did on the show. We'll talk about that later. But for you, what was the biggest surprise from the 3 courses that you did?
Biggest surprise. So the biggest surprise I will say was honestly the slipper lobster, just because I've never even heard of it. Like I never heard of the product. I mean, but so the thing about chop that I kind of figured out was that like basically to not overthink the ingredients. Take the ingredient, break it down for what it is, and then fabricate it. So at the end of the day, it was a different type of lobster, but it was lobster nonetheless. Yeah, so I just treated it like lobster. So I broke it down, cut it in half, pulled the meat out, and then I took the rest of my ingredients. You know, they gave us a deep fry ice cream bar, and I make these like coconut curry, like ramen broth things here all the time, where we use coconut milk and chicken broth. They gave us, so in that basket it was the ice cream bar, the lobster, delicata squash, and crab miso. So immediately when I saw the miso, I'm like, let's go ramen. And then I'm like, instead of the coconut milk, I'm gonna just take this ice cream bar, pull the breading off of it. It's just dairy at the end of the day. When I melt this ice cream down, it's cream. So I put that in there. It was a little sweet. I added the coconut. So just taking them ingredients and breaking them down. But I'll say the biggest surprise to me was the slipper lobster, and then secondly was the ostrich neck.
Okay. That goes to the next part was for you when you went and did the ostrich neck. I mean, I treated it such as like an oxtail or anything. You have to like slow roast every single time. So when you went through the second stage was the ostrich neck, and you went into more ostrich stew in a sense. Were you super confident in it, or were you just like, no, it's ostrich? We already know 30 minutes versus 3 hours.
It's no way. And it's funny because like. So like it's those things that are very for TV. It's like you hear the judges like, oh, you should have cut the meat off and grind it in and made it. It's like, bro, it's a 10. It's like it's not enough meat on a neck. It's like taking a turkey neck and being like, oh, let's make a burger out of it. You can't make a burger. You know what I mean? So you can make a turkey neck burger. So it was that. But was I confident in my dish? I knew I packed a lot of flavor in my dish in a short period of time. I knew I utilized all the ingredients, so I was very confident in that. I knew that the ostrich neck was not going to be the starter dish because it is what it is. But I was like, in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to get this mug on the plate. I'm going to utilize it. They might hate this one component, but I'm going to make every other component around this damn ostrich neck so good that they'll be able to like look past it. And that's what I did. So for that basket, they gave us ostrich neck, curry ketchup, rainbow carrots, and then these like chicken pot pie bites. So again, just taking the ingredients, breaking them down for what they were. So I took the chicken pot pie bites and kind of like smashed them down. It was dough. So I used it with some butter, and I was like, I'll make a roux out of this. And then I took the tomato ketchup and added more tomato product and used that as my stew base. So just taking the ingredients, breaking them down, and utilizing them for their raw components.
Yeah, and another thing that I had noticed is that one of the contestants also didn't even include the ostrich neck, which was like, you automatically like kind of disqualified.
Yeah, for sure. and that's what it was. Like I swear to God, man, like people were overthinking the ingredients. Like my man in the first round, he took the delicata squash and he tried to like deep fry it. He just way overthought the dish, and it was just like, bro, just cook good food. Like people get on chop. That's one thing I noticed when I watch episodes. Like people get on there and just start doing shit that they would have never done. It's like you would never do this in your restaurant. So why overthink it now? Like just cook, bro. That's it. You know.
And I think that's one of the things I took from you. I mean, I worked with you quite a few times, and not a handful of times. So I'm working with you with your different pop-up events, working with you in the restaurant, working with you at private chefs. So like, I kind of understand how you operate, what your process looks like, and also how you want to cook. So when you went to the bread pudding, my first thing when I seen the box, I was like, oh, he's definitely gonna do like some type of pudding. Cause I already knew in my mind. And I was like, oh, like yo, and then, like in the show, the guests were like, he's gonna do a bread pudding. How's he gonna do it within 30 minutes? I'm like, they don't even fucking know. They have no idea how you're gonna do this. I already knew. I'm like, don't even worry about it. Watch some of this work, some magic. And one of the guests, I don't know her name, but she ended up saying how much she loved bread pudding, and she was excited for you to do it. And when she tasted it, and obviously, like in 30 minutes, obviously you want to be like more filling inside of it, so you couldn't have enough time to do it. But I know like you would have had time and calculation to do it in perfect. Yeah. But she still loved the dish in general. So with that goes to the next. What were some connections that you had made at Chop that like you still have today?
So I was super like blessed to be able to like so that day people don't realize, but like they shoot that entire episode in one day. So it's like a 16-hour day. So you on set with these celebrity judges that you like admire and like the people you're against. So the people that you're competing with. So two of the people that I met, which was the girl that I competed with in the dessert round, Chef Ariel, her and I still communicate pretty frequently via Instagram. She's a pastry chef, amazing pastry chef out of New Jersey. And so, you know, just anytime I need pastry advice or whatever, I reach out to her. And then one of my judges, Chef Faria Abdullahi, actually is her and I got real cool. You know, after the episode, she celebrated with me and invited me to her restaurant. And then I've gone back to New York during Fashion Week to eat at her restaurant and do stuff with her. So, you know, those connections were really, really cool to make, man. And like I said, anytime I'm in New York now, you know, I'll reach out to Faria, hey, I'm coming to the restaurant. And like, she just red carpet, like she's super cool like that. Gave me a tour around her kitchen. And then, like I said, you know, just the notoriety of just being on Chop. A lot of people have reached out and wanted to know about what my experience was and how I liked it. And my hope is that one day Food Network will reach back out and let me go compete again on one of those like Chop Champion episodes because it was. I'll tell you, it was a super fun experience. Like I tell people, it was stressful, it was fun, it was nerve wracking, it was like all the emotions in one. And then once they lifted that last close-up and my dish wasn't there and I knew I won, bro. That was that feeling. It felt like I haven't felt that way. Again, going back to like being a football player, I haven't felt that way since like I played ball and we won like the district championships. I feel like, and that's how it felt.
Yeah, and I feel like that. I don't know what that feels like. Never did either or. But I felt it because I'm from Detroit, and I feel like the whole city kind of felt it too because we have two Chop champions. You are the second, but it's the fact that like we are not to be trifled with. People come in, people think about Detroit, they think about like the negative connotations of Detroit, and it's just like, yo, the city is on the up and up. One and two, we are one of the most uprising food scenes right now in general. And three, whenever anybody brings up Detroit, people gotta understand that like, yo, we like no matter what it is, we one of the best. So don't try to compete with us.
One of the ones for sure.
And so that's the thing that like behind it was not only did you have validation for yourself, you won for yourself and for the city, but you also like for the team, you put the city on your back in terms of like, hey, look, I'm part of the new scene of food in Detroit. I'm about to show you what we've been doing, which also opens up the gate for anybody else who watches this episode. And it's like, Chef Davante from Detroit. Well, let me go see what Detroit is looking like, see what's going on. So like having that opportunity and then seizing it and taking it and winning, being a Chop survivor and winner is nothing that people can ever take away from you. That's right. One. And two is just the fact that like you've been able to do so much with just this one opportunity. And let's talk about the next one is the fact that you are a private chef for a few, I'm not notable names of sports players, whatever the case may be. So going into that, I guess it doesn't have to be current, but like who has been I can't say best, who has been the most enjoyable client to cook for as of right now? And you don't have to say a name. But
so actually, not even an athlete, but the family that I cook for currently is a young African American woman. She's amazing, business owner, entrepreneur, just super genuine person. She is her family. I cook for her family 3 nights a week. Not gonna drop her name, but like she is amazing. I go to her house. I'm there for maybe an hour, 3 nights a week, but like just the relationship. I feel like I'm a part of that family. I come in there, they let me cook whatever I want. There's never, except for the occasional like, hey, chef, I really have a taste for this thing. They love the element of surprise. They love my creativity. So like each night they're looking forward to what I came up with next. And I'll say I've been cooking for them since last August, and I haven't repeated a dish yet. They've gotten something different every single 3 nights a week, every week since August, and I haven't repeated it outside of like Taco Tuesday is Taco Tuesday, but I give them some type of different rendition of what Taco Tuesday looks like. Whether it's like a chicken esquites or an enchilada or a bowl or birria or whatever. Like I've given them a different dish every 3 nights a week since August, and they absolutely love it.
And I think that's one of the people that people don't understand with like being a chef is that like the creativity and also having to have diversity and doing different things. It takes a lot of work. People don't understand that part is that like to do different things at almost every single week or every single day, it's a lot of work going into that. I mean, of course, we all want clientele who like do the same shit or like want to have the same thing over and over again. But being able to exercise and have the creativity flow to be able to do that is amazing. So it's like, so take me to a time where you've had the most simple eater as a client.
Man, I'll tell you what, people don't even recognize, but like the NFL guys, the Lions guys I look for, the athletes in general, they're the most simple. Like,
and simple isn't a bad thing, by the way.
No, simple's not a bad thing at all. It's just because like people think that once they immediately equate the money to like, oh, they gotta be eating crazy fancy. But it's like you gotta realize like most of these NFL guys that I cook for, a year and a half ago, they were college students in a dorm room eating ramen. Yeah. Or, you know what I mean? So, or they've been away from home for the last 5-6 years between college and now. So sometimes they just miss their mama's cooking. So they want something simple. They want some fried chicken. They want some good mac and cheese. Or, you know, like I said, you should take you back to time. Like there was at one point where I was cooking for DeAndre Swift when he was running back in the Lions. And like dude's favorite thing to eat was a buffalo chicken sandwich. And so out of 5 days a week of meals, for lunch, 3 days out of that week, he wanted a buffalo chicken sandwich. I can make you whatever the hell you want. Exactly. I can make you fried wine and filet. But if you tell me you're going to pay me to make you a fried chicken sandwich with some buffalo sauce on it, it's going to be the best damn fried chicken sauce you ever had. But that's how those guys eat, man. Like I had a buddy of mine that I grew up with. Once he got drafted to the Patriots, he hired me to be his chef or whatever, but like that's been the homie since we was 11 years old. I know dog like tacos in the most, to me, disgusting way possible. He like his tacos with ground beef, hot sauce, and tomatoes. That's it. Yeah. Who am I to tell this man not to eat his tacos with hot sauce, ground beef, and tomatoes? Exactly. So it's like, the athletes is definitely the most like, them dudes just want good food, and they're very disciplined people, right? So they don't mind eating the same thing a lot because like they're used to repetition, they're used to being disciplined. So yeah, athletes by far, the athletes are the easiest people to cook for.
No, I definitely get that part because it was a time where shout out to Chef Tina, she came to Detroit and we actually she gave an opportunity to cook for Derrick Rose's family for Thanksgiving, and it was probably the longest day I've had. Like I think I got there like 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. I didn't leave till like 9, 10 p.m. whatever the case may be, and it was the fact that Derrick Rose is a very simple eater. Like he just wants grilled cheese, chicken fingers. I'm pretty sure he's vegan now, so it's way different. Yeah. But at a point in time where he wasn't vegan, he probably just wanted those things. So I guess now working from, I mean, you quite the timeline. I've known you since 2017, so I've helped you out with with few pop-ups, restaurants, private chefs, cooking for families. Now you've chopped champion, breaking bread, cooking for sports athletes. Take me to Detroit Draft Day for that whole weekend, or even, I guess like the whole week.
Yeah, it's the week. So we actually got the opportunity. We had the opportunity. Me and Chef Dom got the opportunity to reopen a food hall in downtown Detroit that they wanted to feature 4 Black-owned restaurant concepts. So we got the opportunity to be one of the concepts. So we have a concept that we created called Savannah Smokehouse, named after his daughter. It's a barbecue concept, something Dom loves. Dom is like a barbecue guru, like he loves it. It was just a fun, man. We got to do some fun, good food, introduce a concept that we haven't fully birthed yet, but it was like a little teaser to what that concept is going to look like. The goal is to ultimately get a brick and mortar and make that concept be, fully birthed. But man, it was just a fun, busy weekend. We rallied the troops, got all the guys involved, and if you was here, you obviously would have been on that phone call too. Like, we got a little network of people that we, are not tight-knit circle that we like to work within, and it was just a fun weekend, man. A fun week, rather, to go just do a quick little barbecue concept, making some good food, and spreading the love. That was it. So it was cool though.
We also broke the record for most people that were here in Detroit for the draft. So
listen, you're gonna bring a party to Detroit. Detroit gonna show you how to party.
You feel me? Every single time. That's one thing I wish I was here for, because I felt like not only like being in the trenches with y'all, but also seeing Detroit at such a beautiful time. And people, when I think I've talked to a few people who aren't or have never been to Detroit, and they just came here out of shock or just on like a layover, and they're always shocked at how Detroit looks or how it is, and it's just like, this is where I'm from, so I know what it's like. But to other people, it's like it's on the up and up, and it's just like, oh, it's such a beautiful city, it's such an amazing time, good food, great people, and it's just like I'm happy that we were able to even have that opportunity, and also people to come to Detroit and know what Detroit food tastes like from people like you, Chef Dom, and the other Black Concept chefs that were there. So I guess my next and last question would be, what's next for Chef Davante, or what's next for Savannah Smokehouse, or any concept you got going on?
So I have a few concepts that I'm working on right now. I'm just trying to figure out timeline of when they're all going to drop. Me and Dom have Savannah Smokehouse. I also have a concept called Airy, which is my my baby. It's a elevated Southern cuisine concept. Hoping to be open with that within the next year. But ultimately, right now, the immediate what's next is just to continue to grow Chef Square Private Chef Group, continue to tap into these different clients, these different sports teams. The goal is to have year-round athletes, so going from the Lions to the Tigers to Pistons to the Red Wings and everything in between. And that's the goal, man, just to keep continuing to build Chef Square. Because the beautiful thing about Chef Square is that I'm only one person. I tell people this all the time, like, there's 52 players on the football team. So it allows me to be able to get as many players as I can that want to tap into what we're doing and put other young chefs on. One of the biggest challenges that I feel like I had trying to get into the private chef world was that it was very gatekeepy. And so I would talk to these other chefs like, yo, man, how do I get in? Like, how can I get an athlete? And it was like, people wanted to just hold on. It's like, dude, there's 52 players on a football team. And I'm like, what's up? So I vowed to myself to, like, when I get opportunities to give other young chefs opportunities to get their first client, their first athlete, I feed into that like 1,000%. So I just want to continue to grow Chef Square Private Chef Group, continue to get these athletes on board with some good food, and then ultimately help other young chefs get into this private chef world, because it's great money, it's lucrative, and it allows you to work for yourself essentially and be creative. So yeah, that's the goal. That's the immediate goal. It's just to keep feeding into Chef Square.
No, I completely understand that, and I think that's one of the biggest things that, like, we as Black people, but more so Black people in culinary, is that it's very, and it's no lie, I'm keeping it real, it's a very white predominant space,
which is crazy in a predominantly Black city.
And, it's crazy. Even if you're like, even outside of Detroit, it's just like people think about top cuisines and it's like Italian or French, and it's just like, well, what about other like African, other African countries like Ethiopian, Ghana, Nigeria, or even when you're in America, is you have Georgia, Texas, Cali, Detroit, Florida, Mississippi, Alabama. So it's like, when you think about good food, I think about places that have deep spices, deep history, deep roots, culture, even in the Caribbean islands, of just like people think about oxtail, and it was more so just scraps for Black people to eat off of when we were slaves, and now it's one of the biggest like delicacies you could possibly have. That's served for like $50.
One of the most popular proteins, And
it's just like, yo, like, this was once a dish that we was just eating because there was nothing else left. Grits was another thing that was just nothing else left that we had to eat. So like, when I think about these things, it's like a lot of places or times, like, think about like great food. It comes from the spirit of Black people, and the fact that we aren't looked at as such as like a big space or a big place to like a top cuisine, I want to say. It's
because our cuisines were very originally rooted in family, but then it became rooted in survival.
Exactly.
But which tied us back into family. So it was like, and now that's why when you eat certain food from certain cultures, it warms you. It's deeper than just what it tastes like, the feel of it, the smell of it, the taste of it. It all encompasses it all, because it's because the hours that it takes to cook it, and it's because it's the labor of love. That food was cooked with love because we had to nourish our families and we had to survive off that food. So that's why Airy is gonna be what it's gonna be. It's like taking a cuisine that's not traditionally looked at as fine dining and showcasing it in that way.
Yeah.
And so that's the goal, man, for sure.
That's the only goal I want to have whenever I see black chefs, but not just like having the notoriety, but also having the product to back it up. And you have that. So I appreciate you want to be on my show, man.
Man, come on, bro.
Go watch Neck and Neck. Neck and Neck.
Neck and Neck.
Go watch Neck and Neck Chop. Watch this man beat everybody else. Chop survivor, chop winner. Above all else, man, I can't wait to see what you have next going on with Airy, Chef Square. And even then, like, even what you're going to be doing with just like your private chefs, like, please keep showing your content. You want to keep seeing it. And you always welcome to come back to INTDL. And I just want to say thank you, man.
Appreciate you having me, bro. I'm happy to come back anytime.
Bro, Chop champion, the burger.
The burger. The burger.